This is a speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a Sichot of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which was given in the year, let me just check this out, which year it is. In the year, 1 minute. In the year 1958. Huh? 1958. Is this right? Yes. Okay. The speech is talking about the first sentence in this week's Torah portion. And I'll just tell you in a very short way, the first sentence of this Torah portion is very unclear. Very unclear. And let me just say what the sentence is, and I'll explain a little bit the questions. It says, Moses gathered, VaYakhel Moshe. Moses gathered all of the Jewish people, and he said to them, okay, first of all, this is VaYakhel is an unusual term. Moses always talked to the Jewish people. It should say, Vayomer Moshe, I'll call it this. Moshe spoke. Why does it mean VaYakhel? He gathered everyone together. Okay. Then, he gathered everyone together. That's enough of a question. We got more questions. Vayomer Alehem, and he said to them, Elu hadavorim, these are the things which God commanded to do them. What did God command us to do? The whole Torah, right? This is special. This is special. This is a special thing. Moses specially gathered all the Jewish people together to give them this special, important message they've never heard before up to now. That's the name of this Torah portion. What's the special message? 6 days your work should be done. 6 days your work should be done. And on the 7th day, it should be for you holy. A Shabbat, Shabbaton, a double Shabbat for God. End the message. Says the Rebbe, what type of message? They already heard this in the 10 Commandments. The Jewish people heard in the 10 Commandments to keep the Shabbat. There was no necessity to gather them again. What is the message over here? What's the special message? Also, why does it say over here, 6 days your work should be done? It should say 6 days do work. That's that language of the 10 Commandments. What it means the work should be done. Also, why does it say the work should be done? And then Shabbat, Shabbaton, it'll be a rested. That's what the term that's used for Yom Kippur. That's not Shabbat. It comes, there's 52 Shabbats every year. What do you mean? There's going to be, if your work is done, then you'll be a Shabbat. What does this mean? What does it mean? Let's see. This is in Yiddish. So that's what the answer the Rebbe is going to give is that there's a tremendously important message here that Moses is giving, and it was never given before, and it's a message that should escort us, be with us for every moment of our lives. The message that Moses gathered the Jewish people to tell them over here. A tremendously important message, in a way, the whole foundation of our attitude toward life and toward the world and toward serving God and to ourselves, something which will be a light to our conduct in every moment of our life. Here we go, listen. So let's start from the beginning. Zainin in them, Faran, Fil Diukim. There's a lot of details and questions. Was etlecha from there, a few of them is asked by the commentators of the Torah. Now, again, we have to remember that the Torah was written by God. The Torah was transcribed by Moses. Moses actually brought it down to the Jewish people. But the words of the Torah are exactly the words of God. God told Moses what to write. Exact. Every letter, every word, every place, every... So every word has a tremendous importance to it, but especially over here, it says that Moses gathered all the Jewish people and he said, this is the thing that God commanded you. 6 days your work should be done, and there's going to be a double Shabbat from that. Okay, what does he want to say over here? Listen to this. It took 3,300 years for the Lubavitcher Rebbe to come and explain this to us, what it means. Listen. Says the Rebbe, the commentators on the Torah have a lot of questions. One of them is, what is the need from VaYakhel Moshe? Why does it say that Moses gathered the Jewish people? The usual language is in the Torah is Doch Vayomer Moshe. Moshe said, V'yeshteit, like it says in Mirror in the majority of the places, and also it says in a few lines we're going to see in Edlich Pesukim, many it says Vayomer Hashem. When it's talking about God spoke and he said, these are the things you should bring to the temple, and this is the things they brought. It always says Vayomer. Why does it say over here VaYakhel? He gathered the Jews. Number two, it says, so these are the things that God commanded us to do. Und der erklärt nicht, was seine Devarim. It doesn't explain what they are. These are the things that God says what to do. What are the things? It doesn't say any things. After that, he just says that 6 days you should do work. That what type of things are there? Rov Mefarshei Torah, the majority of the commentaries of the Torah, they say this is not talking about the topic of our Torah portion, namely the gifts that everyone brought to the tabernacle. But this is a very difficult thing to say. Because later on, I'm sorry. Most of them say, most of the commentaries say that this is talking about the gifts that were brought to be brought to the tabernacle. That's what the topic of the Torah is. That's the title of this Torah portion. Moses gathered the Jewish people, and he told them. What did he tell them? He told them about the what's going to be mentioned later, bringing these different gifts to the tabernacle. It's repeating what it was said in Parshas Truma. Repeating it. That's what it's talking about, says the Rebbe, but that's not so logical to say. Why? Because later on in the Trumas of Mishkan, when it does talk about, in another few sentences, when it talks about giving, the people brought their donations to the tabernacle, it says one more, Vayomer Moshe, that Moshe said to the people, bring the... So here, when it says that Moses gathered the people and he told them, it's not talking about the rest, what's mentioned in the rest of this Torah portion. It must be talking about something else. We have to say, is this is talking about what it says right afterwards, Vos is fardem sveiter, from the other Vayomer, namely, it says 6 days your work should be done. So we have to take it at face value that Moses gathered the Jewish people and he said, these are the things that God wants. What are the things that God wants? What are the things? Keep the Shabbos. 6 days your work should be done and keep the Shabbos. That's it. Shmir Shabbos on Shabbos is Zayin and Zeidach. They were already commanded. Shoyin Angazok, they were already commanded in the 10 Commandments. So it's not understandable what Moses gathered to the people and he told them, these are the things that God wants us to do. And these things were already told before. Why did he have to gather them together? It must be something very important. Another question. I went through these questions when we started the class. Why does it say, okay, 6 days your work should be done and keep Shabbat, but it doesn't say Shabbat. It says Shabbat Shabbaton, a double Shabbat. 2 times. Fourth question. Rashi says, and it also says the same thing in the Gemara and also in the Zohar, that VaYakhel Moshe, that Moses gathered the Jewish people, was the day after Yom Kippur. After what happened in Yom Kippur, Moses came down with the second tablets. B'shas Moshe Rabbeinu is up Rupkikom, when Moshe came down from Mount Sinai. What happened to Jewish people? Moses went up to receive the Torah, but he broke the first tablets 40 days after he came down. The Jewish people worshipped the golden calf. Moses went up another 40 days, and he got forgiveness. He went up another 40 days, third 40 days, and he received the Torah, and the Torah was given 40 days after the first day he went up, and that was on Yom Kippur. He came down on Yom Kippur, and the day after Yom Kippur, he gathered all the Jewish people, and he told them this very important message: 6 days, your work should be done, and then you should have Shabbaton. Okay, so this whole thing is not understandable. From this, it doesn't stand. From them, is verstandig understood as the VaYakhel Moshe, that Moses gathered the Jewish people, had the Sheikh says some sort of a special connection to Yom Kippur, which the whole thing of Yom Kippur is Kippurim, but it says forgiven all sins, which the Eibishter had gesagt, which Moses said to God said to Moses, Salachti kiravrecha, I forgive the Jews. Vostos is the kapora. This is a forgiven for the sin of the golden calf. Therefore, we have to understand what's the connection between this. Okay, we have to remember the sin of the golden calf was a sin of human nature. Human nature. The Jewish people were taken out of Egypt. They were brought to Mount Sinai. They were made God's people. God, the creator of the universe, spoke to them. He told them what to do. Their souls jumped out of their bodies. They said, we'll do whatever you want to. Moses with this. And then they worshiped the golden calf. They thought Moses was going to come down, and they worshiped the golden calf. Why did they worship the golden calf? Why not? Why not? God told them not to. Okay, so God, he does his thing, and I do my thing. Right? God told me, good. But there was a tremendous urge. It was just the right thing to do, to worship the golden calf. Everyone was doing it. It was comforting, it was promising, it was popular. Right? Everyone did it. Why not do it? So everybody did it. So it says when Moses came down from Mount Sinai, that he broke the tablets, so the Jewish people said, wow, we made a big mistake. When he came down the second time, so he said, God forgave you. God forgave you. But you should know, God didn't want to forgive you. He didn't want to. I had to work really hard, but he forgave you and gave the tablets. But listen, don't do it again, because every time you do any sort of a little sin, he's always going to be reminded that maybe he should have wiped you out. Maybe he should have wiped it. So we still have inside of us this urge, this tendency to worship the golden calf. In other words, not just the tendency to do it, but to actually do it, right? To pay attention to this tendency. So somehow or other, that Moses gathered the Jewish people, and he says 6 days your work should be done, and after that there's going to be a Shabbaton. This is somehow or other the power to be totally free from these urges of worshiping the golden calf and being selfish. How is this going to be? We'll see. Vedmen, and so we see it's pretty important. If we can get rid of our false egotism, there's a trick. And so this is a pretty important message, how to do it. That's why it was worth gathering the Jewish people to tell them this. Okay, Vedmen understand, we can understand this. Dermanan, when we mention first, the rabbis say about what says, it says 6 days, Moses told the Jewish people, when the Jewish people got the Torah on Mount Sinai, it says you should do work 6 days. And then 7th day is Shabbat. But here it doesn't say you should do work. It says 6 days, your work should be done. In Hebrew, it's ta'aseh, means to do, and te'aseh means it should be done. The taf is a tzere, and ayin komotzo. Te, a is a tzere, is an a sound, and a komotzo is o. Te'aseh, not ta'aseh. Unit ta'aseh, not with the patach, a sound. The difference is, ta'aseh means that you should do. Tan mit der Vernehmlichkeit, that you have to be occupied. Te'aseh means that it should be done for you. You don't care if you do it, just your work should be done. As that, oh, now you're going to have a good time. I hope you don't get, excuse me. Nobody gets a stiff neck from this, and if you do, I hope you don't Sumi. Here we go. Te'aseh means something is. That's how they took the picture. Tut zich up from zichaline. Te'aseh means that something is done. 6 days, your work should be done. You don't care if you do it, if somebody else does it, if it's done automatically, you don't care. It says in the Mechilta, in one of the Midrash, Israel, when the Jewish people do what God wants, Malechtan, their work is done by means of others. Oh, so we see, 1 second, what do I do? Oh, there we go. Your work is done by others. This is the bracha, this is the blessing from heaven. Yeder inyan, everything is dach aber da oich in them avoda from mention. Everything that's commanded in the Torah, what does God want? That we shouldn't have free, things shouldn't be done automatically. God wants us to work. Is doing it from teyaseh, when it says that your work should be done, it doesn't mean that you should just wait around and have it done by somebody else. No. As the malachas of Oda v'chol, but yid darf mentan, you have to work. 6 days. You have to have work. That's why God created us, is to work. So what does it mean that we should not work, that the work should be done automatically? On a phenomenon, but it says you should work, but you should do it on a phenomenon, that you shouldn't be sunk in your work. Nor azoi wie das volt sich getan from zichaline. That when you do your work, it should be done as though you're not the one that's doing it. It's done, so to speak, automatically. Maybe we can say it in a simple way. It's done, and they say, you don't take the credit. You don't take the credit. I agree. You have the greatest, whatever it is, pianist in the world, the greatest, football player in the world, and they say, well, you just won the president, you just won, and the person says, listen, I'm just grateful to God that I have these powers, and I'm just grateful to God that he gave me these, things. I have a friend that he became paralyzed, he can't do anything, and, all these other, I have wonderful teammates, and he doesn't take any credit for himself. He says, thank you very much, everything I have is just given to me by the Lord, and I'm just, thankful that I am able to use it properly, and that's what it means. Whatever you do, it's not you doing it. It's as though it was done automatically. Like it says, it says in the Psalms, if you work with your hands and your profit comes from your handiwork, then you'll be happy and it'll be good. Yagia means the efforts of your hands. If you eat from the efforts of your hands, in other words, don't get free handouts, but on the other hand, don't work with all of your soul. Your soul is not supposed to be sunk in the work. Your soul is supposed to be given to the Creator. If God wants you to be a surgeon, a brain surgeon, so of course you have to do the good job, but it's not really you doing it. God is giving you the power to do it. He's giving you the ability in your hands. He's giving you the wisdom, the understanding. It's all gifts from God. You have to do it. You have to do it. Of course you have to do it. But it's not as though that you're doing it alone, so to speak. The real accomplishment is God's accomplishment. Was there taiches, that means you do have to work, but the work that you do is, the mensch does, was zu lieb sein, kerpelich de beshefen, and the things that you have to do for your own physical necessities, what you have to darf sein nor, has to be only mit the hand, only with your hands and your external limbs alone, but not your head, not your soul, and your heart should be in these things. And the time when you do it, if you're only working with your hands, so to speak, I'm just a vessel, I'm just an instrument, as done as ashrecha, then you're going to be happy. Like the rabbis say, ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, you'll be happy, and you'll be happy in this world and in the world to come. Let's give the example, a simple example. I mean, think about this a little bit. There's people who are very successful in sports, especially this is especially found in sports. In order to be successful in sports, you have to be a really good physical shape. And if you're a champion, you have to be in exquisite physical shape. You have to be perfect physical shape. But then people get old. What happens when they get old? they haven't got the same stamina. They're not so quick as they were before. The reactions slow down, and then this. So what does a person do? What's he going to do? He was the champion. Everybody was clapping for him. Everybody was amazed. It was so wonderful. Now we can't do it anymore, right? You have these people, these movie stars or whatever. As soon as they see a little wrinkle, they see this. Ooh, they feel terrible. But what's going to be? Okay, so the answer is if you're doing everything because it's a gift from God, and it's really not you doing it 100%. It's God is helping you 1%. And suddenly you realize it's not 1%, that 50% is God and 50% is me. When you start to thinking about 1 second, that 50% that's me, 50% of that is also God. So it's 75% is God. And then you start to think that 25% that's really me is I see, there's people that they're not. So maybe, okay, 1% is me. Right, 1% of me. And then you realize that 1% that's me, that's also a big gift. So who's doing the whole business? Who's doing it? I'm doing it. But this I that's doing it is being helped by God. So to speak, everything is being done by God. That's what's called being God's partner. And if God decides to take it away from me, so, whatever God wants, I'm accepting. I'm accepting. It's not that my life is destroyed now. I can't run a 9-minute, whatever it is, a 9-second, what is it, a 3-minute mile. I can't do it anymore. I'm not a human being anymore. Right? I'm not beautiful anymore. I can't be a movie star. My life is destroyed. Right? My business went under. I lost all my money. Therefore, my life is worth nothing. Right? That's not the way people look at it. So even when you're working, you have to be aware of the fact that it's not really me that's doing it. I'm just doing it because God wants me to do it. God wants me to be rich. He wants me to be helpful. He wants me to be successful. He wants me to. Automatically, it also comes down to, what I'm doing. Maybe it's not what God wants. I don't think, for instance, if everybody did what God wanted, I don't think there would be any boxing, any, MMA. These people beat each other up, knock each other's eyeballs out, and he does it in the name of the Lord. I don't think there'll be such a thing. I mean, ask big rabbis, if there's any way you can permit, boxing and things like that. I don't think that there is, but for sure, if everybody did what God wanted, no one would enjoy that stuff. No one enjoy it. But okay, we'll see. This means as te'aseh. That's what it means, the message that Moses gave to the Jewish people. Gather together, I want to tell you something. All of your work has to be in a way of te'aseh. It has to be as though it's done automatically. Erlik you're not sinking your whole self in your business with your brain and with your heart and with your soul. Ertut es nor blois, you're only doing with your actions. And your actions you use only as much as is necessary for work, for doing the work. You don't trick others. You're not dishonest. You're thinking about it day and night. You haven't got any time for your family. You haven't got any time for your wife or your children or for other people, right? And if your business goes bad, you're all angry and miserable. And if it goes good, then you're on the top of the world. You should be happy all the time because God is creating you. Listen, if you make a big success, of course you're happy, but you're not happy the essence of your soul, right? We did it. I'm great. I'm so wonderful. But because their emphasis, the truth is, as your success comes from the blessing of God, but you have to do something. You have to make a vessel. Nitzai nasiya, not what you do is what's giving you a livelihood. Nor the bracha, but the blessing of God. This was good. You see, there's people that are billionaires, right? These people are billionaires. So these people, they're not like 1,000 times better than millionaires, or 1,000 times smarter, right, than everybody else. They're not 1,000 times smarter. Maybe they have a better business. They're 10% smarter. They made the right decisions. They were in the right place at the right time. It could be that if they would make the exact same decisions in the same time and the market crashed, then they would. Right? So just simply, 99% of it depends on luck. On luck. Even if you don't believe in God, it depends on luck. How did you get good luck? Well, I'm lucky. Where did that luck come from? Where did the luck come from that you got good luck, right? person starts to realize, listen, maybe it's not me that's doing it. Maybe it's my luck that's doing it. Maybe it's my luck. And you start to realizing that, listen, maybe God just decided that he wants me to do it. He wants me to be successful. Why did God decide? Because I'm better. If I'm better, it's because God made me better. So you start to realize I'm not better. That I'm better is not me. It's not anything to do with me. It's just that's also a gift. Mer nidvas, the bracha, it's just the blessing of God. That's what makes up people rich and successful, and that has to have a vessel. Therefore, darv zayin, the bechol asher taseh has to be in everything that you do. I can't hold myself back. I heard a story the other day that a fellow won $30 million. He was called, somebody called him up, a lawyer called him up. A lawyer called him up and said, you have an aunt and her name is such and such and such, and she left you $30 million in a, he says, yes, I do have that aunt. She lives somewhere. She has no relatives whatsoever. You're her only relative. We checked it out. You're the only relative that she has. I didn't even know that I had such a person like that. You didn't know, but you do. $30 million is yours. I'm going to be coming and I'll give you the money. You come to meet me in the airport. So the guy goes to the airport with his wife. Meanwhile, he's planning, as soon as he hears about this, right, that he's going to come in the airport, the lawyer is going to come in the airport another week. He's hearing about it. So meanwhile, he thinks to himself, my wife is not such nice looking. And the reason we're married, if I have so much money, I can get myself a really nice looking wife. So he gets it somehow or other, he tells somebody about it, and he decides he's going to divorce his wife. So his wife somehow or other, he doesn't know his wife knows about it. So they go to the airport and they're waiting for this lawyer to come, and he doesn't come. He doesn't arrive, and he somehow or other he leaves a message. He's only going to come tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the airport, he doesn't feel good. He goes back home, and he feels worse and worse and worse, and he dies. His wife poisoned him. And the lawyer doesn't come. He finds that this guy died. He didn't come. They find out that the wife killed him. His wife killed his husband. She goes to jail for the rest of her life. The husband is dead, and it ended up that the lawyer was a scam. And the lawyer only wanted to get, like a $5,000 down deposit or something like that for his something. And the whole thing was a lie. So there was no $23 million, and there was no marrying another woman, and there was no this, and the whole thing just was, and it all was just because people became egotistical. They became insane. They just became insane with I. On the other hand, if a person thinks, listen, whatever I have is a gift from God. God wants me to work. He wants me to do what I can to make a vessel. If he doesn't want me to give the blessing, so then, listen, it would be better that I didn't get the $30 million. So we see that even the imagination of a thing, somehow it becomes, because it's fertilized by our own egotism, that becomes worse than the thing itself. But is mernit was blois a kli. You have to make a vessel for the blessings, but it's only a blessing. It's only a vessel. The vessel is your understanding, your wisdom, your this, but it's only a vessel. All the things that you have are just vessels, and the blessing, the success, that's up to God. That's up to God. If you succeed, you don't succeed. And success doesn't depend on what other people call success. It could be the riches, like our story we just had. Riches is not success. Therefore, darf men ton in them, nor azoy fil. Therefore, whatever you do in the world, you have to do only as much as is necessary, so that it should be a vessel. In other words, you have a business, be a good businessman, be an honest businessman, provide the best type of businessman, but don't go crazy. Don't try to cut off your competition and lie and to cheat. Thus says this means, as the cup, your head, with all of your heart, has to be totally not in your business. Or tachbulas, to make all sorts of tricks and similar things. Und das Gleiche. And also what you do, tan blaze, you only do as much as is necessary. And the emes is, the truth is, doch as hot and ganzen nit gedarf dar leuben Zayin Tan Malacha. The fact is that we really shouldn't have to do work at all. Why? Because Varum, as his doch, as the Shemayim v'Sa'oretz Ani Malay, God fills the heavens and the earth. Umalei Kol Haaretz Kavodo, and the whole world is filled with God's glory. God Baruch Hu, that God, Gefin Sechumatum, God is everywhere. And God is pure life. Umitzad Kavod Melech Melchem Lochem, because of God, that He's the King of Kings. Nid shouldn't have to be the Loibin Tan Malacha. You shouldn't have to do any work. God should give you everything for free, like Adam, the first man, right? All he was doing was just serving God. You just put on tefillin, keep Shabbos, and God will provide for you. The results say, like it says, men the machve karamalka says, if you're standing in front of a king, then you don't make signs to your friends on the side. Right? Wait for me. We're in front of God. Why should we have to do something for ourselves? Right? You're standing in front of a king. You don't think about yourself. You don't wave to your mother on the side of the right. You don't think about yourself. You're just totally surrendered to the king. The same way we're surrendered to the king, to God. We shouldn't be thinking about ourselves and doing anything except for serving God, doing Torah and the commandments. It says, Mir nidvas Torah ad gedar, but the Torah says that we have to, gehasen, tan malacha, you should work. God says we should work. 6 days you should work. Therefore, so it states, like it says, and it says, God blesses you in what you do. You have to work. 6 days you should work. So automatically, as Oiv feels is noitic, only what is necessary. The only reason we work at all is because God wants us to. So therefore, we should only do as much as the Torah gives permission to do. But more than that, darfen in oiser dem was men weist, doch more than what is necessary is by him felt their upleg as their ikr. The main thing should be as Yivrech Hashem Elokecha, that everything I have and everything that I am is only because of God's blessing. Und Veyas is weiter declared, and like it's later stated. One moment over here. No, now you can slant your head. This page should be slanted the other way. Okay. Declared in Sif Hey, like we're going to say later on, is doch das oich an inyan from mechve kamim malka. If you're thinking about yourself and you're doing too much, this is like standing in front of a king and waving to your friend or something that's on the side. You don't do that. You don't think about yourself and your own personal life when you're standing in front of the king. The same thing, we're always standing in front of God. So God should provide everything for us. But God commands us that I will provide everything for you, but I want you to work. You have to work. So that we're working is not in order to make a living. We're working in order because God told us we have to work. But really, God will provide everything for us. But we have to work. So therefore, the work that we do is only because of God's command, and it should be as though the work is done on its own. If so, why does it say, Yegia kapecha? King David says, the effort of your hands, it shouldn't be any effort. Why do we say the effort of your hands? The action of your hands. And that we're going to explain, God willing, tomorrow. What our attitude toward accomplishment in this world should be. Now let's do the, 1 minute. Stop the share. Stop the record.